So tonight I want to talk a little bit about right approach or right view. Kind of find the word approach speaks to me a little bit better. And also put in here hopefully a few things to consider about maybe what gets in the way of perhaps letting go as well, of ease in meditation and in life as well. And one of the things we were talking about yesterday in the course I'm running, A Year to Live, we're talking about anger and how anger, unresolved anger, resentment, hatred is before we can really start to forgive, we need to look at these things. Unless they're really looked at carefully, they'll just keep coming back. It'll be very hard to forgive. In particular, resentment. Resentment is a kind of hard thing to really know and own, but it's this thing that has behind it, you owe me. You owe me something. The flip side of that is guilt, which is I owe you. So those two things oscillating there that are really important things to, where we start from. There's something I'm looking at all the time. Doesn't matter how long you've been going. You look at these things and how they're manifesting in life. And with each of those, there's also then this sense of grief underlying, sadness and grief. Sadness and grief. And we go underneath that, there's the pain, and underneath that, then there's that part of us that really loves, broken-hearted, that these things would happen. In connection. So we sort of go through these layers to get to reconnect with our own nature, but also then reconnect with life, people. So we're sort of dipping through all these different layers. So when we come to meditation, then just any awareness practice, some people, I've heard people say that I don't like to meditate, it makes me angry, or something like that, or makes me restless. But it doesn't do that. All it does is shine the light on what's already there inside of us. So if we have an avoidant personality, that will be there when we try to sit still. We can't do it because we want to jump around the place all the time. So this is where sort of compassion starts to come in, when we start to have to acknowledge, oh, this is what it's like for me here now. How about we just take it a bit easy on ourselves? That's just how it is right now. And it's not a death sentence. It's not always going to be like that. But honesty is the key there to change. And also, as I often say, that if it's been going for a long time, get some help. Because one of the things maybe that is locking it in is that we might be afraid of asking for help, because help has been hard to trust. So be easy with yourself with that, and allow time for trust to build with whoever you're working with there, with those things, with deeper things. Trust takes time. It's really important. So look at one of the things to start with, can be super helpful, is just our everyday intention about how we're coming to meet people. For instance, I'm wondering, who was thinking about intention before you walked in the door here tonight? Did you have an intention? Amanda, Thank you. Top of the class. Well, I did too. The two teachers for the night. But part of it for me was also obviously I want to try and look good, right? Yeah. But Amanda did too, I think, right? Like in training in the psychotherapy we're in, it's part of it is that looking for the good in people. It's a part of it, it's like training myself 5 minutes before and then the door, I've got the notes there, I'm looking. I'm bringing them to mind. What's the good here in this person? Intentionally turning the mind towards it. And it's such a beautiful practice because it makes me feel good to do that. It brings joy. So I just want to invite you all to, if you're not doing it already, just to consider what a simple, easy thing it is to do and how it transforms things really quickly. And of course, there's lots of questions around it too, around about boundaries. If I look for the good for someone and they're treating me bad, what might happen? All these sorts of things. And sure, they're there, but somehow by often looking for the good, it changes things as well in someone. If you know someone is doing that, they have this intention, it changes how you feel automatically. So it's a little invitation there. I'm talking before in the meditation about the right approach in nature. You're coming up to a cat, you come up and you're fully present, aren't you? And you're just like offering the hand, or you're just letting them check you out, a little sniff. and you're giving them space to meet you, to know you. And with dogs even more so, right? Where cats are less likely to swipe you, but a dog, you go too fast, you'll unless they're, super friendly golden retriever or something, but some of them, you just don't want to do that. So it's a bit like humans, right? Sort of that way of like right approach, or horse, even bigger, right? Right approach, you let them come to you. Children, little ones, the same thing. But the same then when you come to meditation, you can have this approach as you come to the body, we're just letting it come, letting what's there come, and we're welcoming it. We've got this welcoming presence that then is giving space for everything to be here. This kind, welcoming, allowing, opening. In the business world, Warren Buffett said, the business schools reward difficult, complex behavior more than simple behavior, but simple behavior is more effective. It goes across all sorts of things. Simple behavior. And the Buddha said it some time ago. He said, don't complicate the uncomplicated. Don't complicate the uncomplicated. In other words, don't go past what's here. The simplicity of what's here in the moment. We're giving up that sense of trying to make it perfect. So then with these teachings, there's another basic premise as well, is that you're invited to, of course, take it on only as a practice, not as a belief. As if I knew I was more of a scholar, I'd know which sutta this came from, but there's one where the Buddha gave a very rare teaching, and he had his main follower there, Sariputta. And he said to Sariputta, have you ever heard this teaching before? And Sariputta said, no, I haven't. Indeed, I haven't. And the Buddha said, "Do you think it's true?" And Sariputta said, "Not yet." Get that? Really important. Not yet, because I haven't put it into action. I haven't seen for myself. I can hear something, but until I put it into myself in my day-to-day life, meditation practice, in my relationships, we don't know if it's true. So this is a great thing here, I think, in this teaching of we want to invoke wisdom in you. That's what the teachings are about. Find your path, whatever that is, your unique path, your unique truth. Otherwise, it'll sort of always ring a little bit false. So, so this is from my therapy training, which is it's a sort of Buddhist, Taoist-based version of therapy. And this is something that is really the core of how we approach it. And this is Donna Martin, the kind of matriarch of the tradition, talking about Ron, who started it. And she says, Ron has always emphasized the presence and personhood of the therapist as the single most important element in therapy, in successful therapy. Aside from the mindfulness and readiness of the client herself, he has stressed the importance of the therapist being warm and accepting, caring and gentle, patient and understanding. He has reminded us that with the person before him, a master therapist rests secure in his knowing that there is no problem here. This is a very lovely thing. There's no problem here. You're not a problem to be fixed. The client is not a problem waiting to be solved by some clever therapeutic intervention or interpretation, but an able-bodied soul merely needing some kind of recognition or encouragement or clarification. Ron has insisted that we give our attention to the whole person who is there before us, whose struggles and griefs are in many ways peripheral to the actual capacity and vitality of this evolving, embodied being who has come to see us. Sweet time. So the problem is not important. What we're doing is helping that part of them inside that is awake and capable and alive to come forward. That's what the Dharma teachings are all about. Inviting that forward, the aliveness, the liberated aspect of you that's already there, the awakened part of you, the joyful part of you, the loving part of you. So there's a social worker in the Bronx, Julio Diaz, is coming home from work one day, got off the train. Do you know this story? You think you do? Okay. Long day at work. He's walking up the stairs, and this teenager jumps out with a knife. He says, "Give me your wallet." And Julio said, "What do you do in that situation?" "Sure." Here it is. And the teenager was going off, and Julio said, "Hey, wait a minute. Don't you want to take my coat as well?" He figured it was a cold night. If he's going to be out robbing all night, that he might as well be warm. And the teenager turned around, looked at him, because they don't teach this in Robbery 101. He turned around and he said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Well, I figured that you might just need a bit of help. If you really needed the money you're doing this, you must really need some help." And he said to him, "You know what? I was just on my way to have dinner. I was wondering if you'd like to come along. You can just follow me if you like. And so this is a true story, by the way. The teenager did. Went to the local diner where he goes to all the time. And when they went in there, they took a seat at the booth, and the manager came, and Julio said, "Hey, how you doing?" Knew them all. The dishwashers came. They said, "Hey, Julio." The waiters and the kids said, "Do you own this place or something?" He said, "No, I was just, being friendly. And weren't you ever taught to be nice to people like that?" And the kid said, "Yeah, I was, but I've never seen it happen before." So they sat and talked, and one time Julio asked him, "So what is it that you really want in life?" And the young dude sort of just went sad and silent, quiet. And they continued on talking about a few other things, and then finally the bill came, and Julio said, "Well, you know what? I'd love to treat you for dinner, but you have my wallet. But tell you what, if you give it back to me, I'll pay for dinner." So he did. He gave the kid $20 as well. And he said, "I'll give this to you, but you need to give something back. That's your knife." And he did. True story. And reflecting back on it later, he just thought, that this is just the principles that had been taught. Be nice to people, and hopefully they'll be nice to you. Right approach in a very, very simple, everyday way. Very simple, everyday way. Great story, huh? So we can complain, or we can try and treat people right. So with these teachings on, say, equanimity, serenity, that's serenity. To do that, huh? That's goodness in action. And serenity is this understanding of cause and effect. We really understand that. We have the Brahma Viharas, the 4 qualities of heart that we're building and developing. So when we think of, and how it works is when we think of loving kindness, and it's like, may I abide in well-being, may all beings abide in well-being and love. To develop compassion, we have the thought, may all beings be free from suffering. Mudita, which is joy. We use the reflection, may all beings not be parted from the good fortune they've attained. But then for serenity, upekkha, equanimity, we change gear a little. It's a little bit different because it's about cause and effect, karma. Karma meaning really karma vipaka, which is cause and effect, really. It's not about some predetermined destination that we have. Cause and effect. It's a much better way to look at it. And the reflection from the time of the Buddha is this: I'm the owner of my karma, heir to my karma, born of my karma, related to my karma, abide and am supported by my karma. Whatever karma I should do for good or for ill, of that I will be the heir. I'll inherit that. Cause and effect. It's really quite a different way of looking at it. So serenity then is this way of meeting life and understanding these laws of cause and effect. Right approach. How we are with people. Treat them well. Hopefully they'll treat us well too. Not guaranteed, but it's a good start. In the Thai forest tradition, there's a story of when they were building one of the large temples there in Thailand. There's this monk, Ajahn Lim, and anyone's been on the building site, a large one, you know what it's like. It's messy. There's stuff everywhere, concrete, reinforcement, piles of sand and rubble and everything else. And this monk, Ajahn Lim, was in charge of supervising this building site. And someone said to him once, he said, oh, imagine that'll be a big relief for you when this is all finished. And he looked at them and he smiled while he said, well, actually, I finish every day. It's a really great way to approach it. I finish every day. That's enough. I'm putting down everything. I finish every day. How many of us finish our work like that, right? No, I'm still doing my emails late at night sometimes and things like that. I finish every day. This is equanimity. Just meeting the ups and downs, the hard, the easy, with this sort of this part of us that's not wanting it to be any different to what it is. Life as it is. This is insight meditation, the teachings of the Buddha. So it's always having the view that nothing is half done. Is the other side of it. But don't we have to finish up? 8:45? Okay, great. The other part of this is then the freshness that it brings, the freshness of perspective, of awareness, this brightness of awareness. And there's this poem I'd like to read you from Ellen Bass. I don't know if anyone knows her. It's called If You Knew. What if you knew you'd be the last to touch someone? If you were taking tickets, for example, at the theatre, tearing them, giving back the ragged stubs, you might take care to touch that palm, brush your fingertips along there, the lifeline's crease on the hand. When a man pulls his wheeled suitcase too slowly through the airport, when the car in front of me doesn't signal, when the assistant at the pharmacy won't say thank you, I don't remember that they're going to die. A friend told me she'd been with her aunt. They just had lunch and the waiter, a young gay man with bright black eyes, joked as he served the coffee, kissed her aunt's powdered cheek when they left. Then they walked half a block and her aunt dropped dead on the sidewalk. How close does the dragon's froth have to come? How wide does the crack in heaven have to split? What would people look like if we could see them as they are, soaked in honey, stung and swollen and reckless and pinned against time? So the freshness of not taking anything for granted. We don't know when our time might come or someone else's. The other side of that then is this thing about moving from a place of being the, you might say, the victim to what is happening in our life, into effective action. William Watkinson wrote, "It is better to light a candle than to curse the darkness." stepping into taking some really alive, vibrant action for ourselves. And it also means, like, that sense of right approach then with relationship, making a stand not just for our life but other people as well, letting them know that you have their back and acting like that as well, supportive, loving, encouraging, letting them know that they're enough as they are. Putting down that part of our minds that's sort of just always saying, not quite right. They're not quite fitting, or I'm not either living up to expectations, or they're not either. Robert Masters, from his book Emotional Intimacy, said it like this: giving others the impression that they are defective is an ineffective approach to encouragement, yet this strategy remains the operational preference for many of us when we're faced with someone falling short of our expectations. This is where many relationships founder. One partner is trying to measure up to the other's standards, often with the threat, voiced or tacit, that if they don't, they'll be abandoned. Right? Deep core worry inside of us will be abandoned. And as we grow up, as we mature, what we have to face, though, is that only children are abandoned. Yeah, only children. Because for a child, if they're abandoned, it's life-threatening. But for adults, people leave us. It's not life-threatening, is it? Something to think about. We're not abandoned as adults. It's not the same thing. Because whatever happens, we'll have we're not going to die from not having enough. We even have a doll system here to look after that. And in a way, that's a really helpful thing to know, that, okay, someone can leave and it's like, well, okay, you'll leave. But it's not literally the end of the world. It's just a hole in our life where they've gone. But it's not the end of the world. So if we can then discern, what are our ways of adapting to that fear of abandonment or disapproval or whatever, we can then start to sort of work out, well, how can I be with that to free myself from that? To be the person who I'd like to be in relationships, rather than someone who's adapting to other people's perhaps manipulation, subconscious generally, or lack of nourishment, the ways that they might abandon themselves and then abandon who's with them, or the ways that they might be intrusive or disempowering. Different ways that then approach comes in to the whole package of Dharma practice. The right approach is quite a broad thing when we look at it. There's the everyday, mundane approach, and then a bigger one as well, knowing the larger pattern of how things are. Really checking out, where are we being pulled by things that are happening, and is there some place inside of us that might be just rest back a little bit and look a little bit more objectively at relationships. So we'll just finish up in a second here. Just wanted to do a little blessing to end. I invite you to close your eyes and just go inside. And let's just acknowledge our own ancestors here. We acknowledge the ancestors of the land, but let's acknowledge all ours, which, say, looking around the room, come from different countries. Let's acknowledge all the people that have come before us, parents, grandparents, aunties, uncles, as well as the custodians of the land here. It's one thing to hear the teachings, but it's really then for us to humbly welcome them in, to put them into practice. It's not just mind fodder. Those teachings need to be applied. So welcoming in the teachings and the wisdoms, let's maintain our edges, opening the shadows of our awareness, acknowledging them and learning with an open heart, in a remembering that sharpens the present, sharpens our inspirations and aspirations, turning agitation into inspiration. And with the spirit of the Dharma in our awakened loving heart, may we see and stand strong for those needing inspiration, hope, belief, and love, to be seen and respected, to be reminded of their basic worthiness. We must remember that our freedom is their freedom. Turning a blind eye to the suffering of others is turning away from ourselves. Knowing the darkness inside of us is our friend. Knowing the mud is our friend. No matter how deep or ugly it is, there in the midst of that, we can rise and harness inspiration and love. Here in this messiness of our relationships, we can walk the new path with our brothers and sisters, our mothers, fathers, daughters, sons, and all our family, with care and respect shining brightly in all the directions we trust beyond what we think is possible. Our deep intuition is now guiding our spirit and heart, life dancing like writing on water, fresh and untraceable, deeply honoring and humbled in the mystery, entering the sacred path and acknowledging that the gift of life exists with the Lord of Death. Stepping onto this road to acknowledge death, we celebrate and deepen our foundation in this game of life, igniting deeper inspiration, love, trust, beauty, sacred harmony, and new possibilities, consciously releasing the hatred, bitterness, and negativity that drains our life energy. We open to the joy, serenity, and harmony, optimism, and peace of our true nature. May all beings be free from bitterness. May all beings be free from hatred and resentment. May all beings experience the soft delight of serenity and harmony.